Hey everybody, how's it going? So today is day 18. This is my mail over there. It's starting to overflow a little bit with mouse poop. Oreo is going to have to get to work on that soon. It's a good thing that they are combining the liquor with water. One of the things I learned in my early 20s is that if you're going to drink liquor or somebody gives you liquor, make sure you drink more water than the liquor you consume so that you don't feel like crap the next day. Look at this. It looks like they're trying to balance it out with some health shit. See that? Some naked juice, green juice, whatever. Some vitamin water over there. Looks like they're working overtime to counteract the gifts that we left off. So before, I think it was over there, and now we're up to here. Not bad. The guy, not the contractor himself, but the person who's actually doing all of this and using the laser leveler and being all perfectionist as to making it as level as humanly possible is actually an old retired fireman. Seems like a really cool guy, nice guy. Again, one of the things I was saying in the last video is I don't want any sort of disagreements or back and forth that I have with the person running the company to ever come across as aggravation towards the actual people doing the work. You try to separate all of this stuff out. The person that I'm dealing with at the Genius Bar is not the person that designed the machine to send 52 volts to the CPU. The person that I'm dealing with on the phone when I'm calling up Verizon because my building went on fire October of last year, all the copper wire in the building was shredded, and they know it is not the person that's still billing me $90 a month for 3 megabit per second DSL that physically cannot have existed in my building for 14 months. And typically, if you understand that that person is not the specific cause of your disagreement or problem, you will actually wind up getting better service or someone more invested in it. So if Steve and Paul have a back and forth with the person that is deciding whether or not this is included in the job and this, that, and the other, that is not something I want to get in the way of the relationship that we have with the people who are actually on their hands and knees doing the work every day. And I think Paul and I have done a pretty good job of establishing that. So it looks like that's their insulation over there. Looks like rock wool. I don't have any of that in here because I didn't think to ask for it until, this was already closed up. Someone said that you could drill holes in this, and you could drill a hole into each one of these planks. So it looks like that's a plank, that's a plank, that's a plank, 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 plank. Everywhere there's a line, and you can spray this stuff in there. I'm kind of curious what the best way to go about doing that is, and also what stuff I should use. So I'm open to some suggestions in the comments if you have. This does feel quite better to walk on, and this is before they've actually sealed everything, before everything has been sealed and also had the tiling and everything put over it. Honestly, a lot of what goes through my head right now is very similar to what went through my head 8 years ago in 2011. In 2011, that was the first time I made a move to becoming more of a real business. I did a video a long time ago called the $30,000 Pocket Dial, where I talk about getting kicked out of the space that I was using for free and being forced to rent a space next door that was $3,300 a month. I guess I wasn't forced to rent it. I did spend 2 to 3 months working out of my apartment, but it was not working. It was another nightmare. It was hell on earth. Once my business had gotten that large, and once I had been both trying to run a screen supply company as well as a house call and mail-in repair company. So I moved into this one place. It was $3,300 a month. It was a studio owned by John Grossbard. I moved into the back room that used to be MBK, I think was Alicia Keys' management company's room. And it was $3,300 a month. And there was no security deposit required, no check on your financials or anything like that. Very easygoing kind of guy. This one gentleman that we both knew, he was a super in the building, I believe his name was Ricky at the time, a good friend of mine who recently passed. Sorry, Ricky. Has introduced us, and It was $3,300 a month, and I had one person who had been kicked out of that studio who said, I'll give you $500 to use the space when you're not there, because it was a fairly nice setup as a studio room, and we were bringing some equipment there that he could use. And there was someone else that was a friend of mine that said, I'll pay you by the hour every time I use it as a studio, and I'll chip in and help you with maintenance and help you a bit with your business. So that was also helpful as well. So I was really only on the hook for like $1,500 to $2,200, maybe $2,500 if someone didn't pay. And then my business started to grow more and more. Sharing it really didn't work. Having this corridor that people had to go down to get to a space that was down the dark alley. It was, you could read the Yelp reviews between May and December of 2011. It wasn't a place that was conducive to getting more clients. And it also wasn't a space where I could really expand into, because you never knew where someone was going to be at a specific time, whether they needed to use something while you were in there. So I needed to find someplace else. And I found the place that I have now. And I started to get the jitters after I signed the lease. It's $3,500 a month. There is a $10,500 deposit. This is not a space that you can share in any way, shape, or form. You're on the hook for that every month, and you need to give up $10,500. And I thought, okay, that's a serious kick in the balls to me at the time, because I was much more broke then than I am now. That was painful. But I wasn't expecting, after I did what was required to get that money, that my PayPal account was going to get frozen. I wound up moving into the place, and then a lot of the people that said that they'd be happy to help me put it together magically just disappeared after I paid. And I realized, well, I need to get this place up and running to make money immediately, and nobody showed up. Kind of sounds similar to this one, where I had several contractors that said, sure, we'd love to give you a quote. Sure, we'd love to work with you. And then I wait, crickets, crickets, crickets. One of them shows up and says it'll be $150,000 to do one 250 square foot room. Like, just ridiculous stuff. I think that I'm going to be eligible for financing, and I wind up being eligible for I thought, worst case scenario, 2 weeks of payroll. The reality was this. And no, this is not a hate symbol or an okay hand symbol. That's a 0. That's it, that which is what I qualified for. So, and I looked for someone to help me design it. Wow, you can tell how much more echoey this room is. Jeez, I can't wait to get the acoustic panels up here. I find a designer. They give me the wrong information. Damn near give me a heart attack while giving me the wrong information. I asked them, hey, what do you think should go here? What color should be here? And I hear back 2 to 3 days later with vague stuff. I asked for it to be clarified. They ignore me for 2 to 3 days again. It's just this kind of annoying crap where I'm chasing people to try to get a response, and then when I finally say, listen, this is not a $7,000 service. You're going to refund me this amount. I'll let you keep $1,000, or else I am going to just go to small claims court. I become the bad guy because I wanted someone to actually be involved in the project for the amount of money that they were asking. It really seems like a repeat of the same old thing. And I have the same old thought process going through my head that I did back then. Is this a good idea? Should I just stay where I am? Should I just stay where it's safe and stay put, rather than move on to taking on more financial burden, more aggravation, because moving is always aggravation, even if you're not dealing with contractors and realtors and lawyers and everybody else. And I thought, maybe I could stay where I am right now. And then obviously that's ridiculous. If I look at where my business went from 2011 through 2019, that never would have happened. That place would have never sustained the business, and it would have never been able to grow. People want to go to a business they can see, not something that's in a basement that we have to go through a bunch of marijuana smoke to get to after walking past a stair, walking all the way back to the back of a freight elevator in this thing that looks like it came right out of a horror movie. And also, it just didn't fit everything that needed to go there. I wouldn't have been able to scale. I wouldn't have been able to get new people. I probably would have kept the business I had there. Who knows? Maybe I would have never started doing board repair in-house, because I just would have never had the concentration. I would have never had the space that I could set aside for myself to be able to just focus on that. There's so much that wouldn't have happened. And it was worth the risk. And I ask myself a lot of the same questions now that I was then. Like, is it really needed? Is that real? Why don't you just stay where it's safe? You built it up to this point, just stick at it. And then I think to myself about, let's say, just the hard drive data recovery stuff. So many people say you should hire a manager. Why don't you have a manager? Professional business as a manager. What they don't realize is that I've had a manager for several years. That manager happened to get really interested after one employee quit in doing data recovery. Had one guy, great guy, really intelligent, really smart, but he was taking forever to do basic data recoveries, and Steve would have to sell the customers. And he got so aggravated at what he had to sell the customers at one point, he said, fuck it, let me try this. Let me see what I can do with this. And he wound up really becoming amazingly well at it, where we're getting drives from companies that charge 5 to 10K, and that said either we can't get it or it's going to be more expensive than that. You're at the other tier, and Steve winds up getting it in like 2 hours. He's taught himself the field the same way that I taught myself the border repair field, which is just sitting in a room until 4 to 6 in the morning every single day, knocking yourself out, researching it while you're on the way home, in a doctor's office, in a waiting room, just waiting for dinner to show up. Hey, I had that problem. What do I need to know to be able to solve that problem? Just constantly researching it. And he got really good at it. So he does it. I don't want to discourage somebody that decided, hey, let me see if I can figure out how to bring my boss way more revenue and add services that are typically only offered by companies that have much larger budgets and much more knowledge and much better connections than we do. Of course I'm not going to do that. Yeah, as I said, here, go, have fun. I'm going to do that. We'll find other people to hire to do this, to do the stuff that you used to do, and I'll go back to a more managerial approach until you're done with, until we can figure out a way to move past this. And he's been doing great. So one thing I realized is the other day I mentioned we had 87 data recoveries, and he's still juggling doing management plus that. And I said, you know what? For 2 days, let's do a list. Nobody gets to ask Steve a question regarding management, and Steve doesn't get to do anything that would be considered management at all. You're cut off. You're not allowed to do it. And we went from 87 hard drives at the beginning to, after 2 full 9-hour days of him just banging out hard drives, kicking ass, one after the other, 89 hard drives. It's not, you can't fit anything more in there. So I actually have my ThinkPad P50 in the front of the store, and I got my Thunderbolt to USB multi-hub dongles so that I can get 6 or 7 USB ports on this machine. I'm using my internal bays and booting off of a System Rescue CD so that I can pick out, cherry pick the easy jobs that he has and do the ones that can just get done with basic DD rescue and then writing a fixed partition map to the end of the clone. Because you don't want to fix a partition map on a drive that's dying. You fix it on the clone once you have all the data block for block on the clone. So, I'm doing that, and I have to set my ThinkPad to not sleep or hibernate when you close the lid, because if it sleeps, because when a customer comes in, that's the counter that we use to open up their machine. So I need a counter. So I wind up closing my ThinkPad that I'm using for DD Rescue, and I'm just thinking to myself, in what world would you still fit here? How is it that you believe that getting a space that's cheaper per square foot in a better area that's 3.5 times the size is not a good idea when this is literally what you're doing to try to fit everything in your store? But one of the things about fear or anxiety is A, it's going to be endemic anytime you're doing some sort of move up or you're trying to go to the next level. And B, sometimes you just have to deal with it. And I'm okay with dealing with it for the most part. But it's definitely something that's there, and I think it's worth discussing. Because you have so many people nowadays in business that, especially the Adam Newman types. I actually worked for an Adam Newman type at that studio I got kicked out of at 247 West 30th Street, the place I was discussing in that video, the $30,000 pocket dial. I worked with a guy who was essentially the shorter, fatter, and if you give Adam Newman cocaine, add 70 pounds to him, probably 100, and make him shorter, exact same thing, like a clone of that guy. He actually wound up walking to Gardenia Deli on the corner, talking up the business, and he got a $15,000 business loan in cash. Just this guy from the deli just brought $15,000 in cash in his smock to the studio and just gave it. Didn't ask to see the numbers of the business, didn't ask the financials, didn't even ask why the guy was always kind of coming up, smelling bad, and sniffling. Because, I don't know, he had that thing. He had that thing that Adam Newman has where he can just walk up to people and just bullshit them out of large amounts of money. And I swear, if this guy was thinner and not a cokehead, he'd be doing that for, millions rather than 15,000 here, 40,000 there, 70,000 here. But he had it. He had it, and he could do it. But the world is filled with people like that are like, oh, this is revolutionary. This is amazing. Everything we do is always going to succeed. It's always going to be amazing. Believe in yourself. But the reality is that when people are making those types of moves, I think it's also important for people to understand that there is a level of fear and anxiety present in that. And that the people who don't have that fear or that anxiety are often people who are sociopaths, who are, Eli the computer guy likes to say that they're rapists. They have a rapist mentality, even if they're not committing rape of a human being. They will rape your finances. They will rape your time. They will rape your soul. They will take as much as they can from you and not care. They will leave your company bankrupt, laugh as everybody loses their job and health insurance while they walk away with $1.8 billion, and they will think that they did a good thing the entire time. That type of mentality. You see so much of that. That's what people that have that constant positivity that they post in their social media profiles, the people that do nothing but talk about business hustle, you never get to see what it is they do for a living. You never get to see what they do that's profitable, if they do anything that's profitable. You don't get to figure out what value they add to society. They just talk about business hustle over and over again and how amazing everything is all the time. I think it's important for people to see the other side of that, which is also that you could have a business that's world-renowned, like mine, to where you're recognized everywhere. You've been in business for 11 years. People around the world know who you are and need your services on a regular basis. You have a line out the door every single day. Your phone is ringing so much that if you show up at 11:55 and you leave at 8:05, you will see that Kevin has about probably 15 seconds of time in between phone calls that is not occupied by a phone call. That's how busy it is. That's how many people are calling us. And you can still have a business owner that goes, oh, crap, what did I do? It's always there. It's always there. And when people kind of act like they're fearless all the time, like they don't have these concerns, I think it sends the wrong message that if you have those concerns, if you wonder about that, if you wonder whether or not you're going to be successful or not, if you ever do feel unnerved that you must be doing something wrong or that you're a failure. And that's not the case. I felt that every single time I made a move. I felt that when I moved from my apartment to that $3,300 place. Clearly, I shouldn't have. Can you imagine me trying to run a business on the scale that I am right now if I was still working out of a 4th floor walk-up? It would never work. But my apartment doesn't even have a working buzzer. How am I supposed to get people to show up? I used to have to, this is a funny story. So I used to have to walk my stuff to the post office. If you wanted the post office to pick up at a specific time every day, it cost $15 to $30. And I couldn't wait at home all day for the post office to come pick up the packages, whether it's machines I need to mail back to customers or screens, mostly screens because I was selling screens at the time. And my business had just started, but even though it just started, I was selling 12 to 25 screens a day with the supply company. So I can't have a customer call and say, hey, you available in an hour? And me say, sure, if I'm waiting for the post office to show up. So I'd have to bring everything to the post office. But I also never wanted to not pick up the phone. That was not an option for me. So I'd wear my little Plantronics Voyager Pro headset, and I would walk my way down Nostrand Avenue to the post office that was on Atlantic Avenue while it was 95 degrees outside, miserable, sweating. And my arms were getting very tired. If I had 14 boxes in a row, I used to do this thing where I would tape the boxes up several times so that I wouldn't have to make sure that they were balanced. I could, kind of jiggle them a little. But my arms would get so tired if I was making several trips that I say, I'm not putting the boxes down. Because I know if I put these boxes down, and it's 95 degrees outside, and I've made this trip 1 or 2 times already, with the amount of sleep I have, if I put these boxes down, they're never making it to the post office, and I'm going to have to buy the customer a new laptop. But I never wanted to not pick up the phone. And this was before, the Bluetooth headsets were as smart as they are now, where I could just say, answer, and answer the call. If you have a $150 Bluetooth cable like the Shure RMCE2, funny thing, you actually can't do that because even though the $30 Jabras do that, the $150 Shure doesn't. I'm being salty about the crappy Shure Bluetooth cables. I can wait for another video. So when a call showed up and I knew I'm not picking these boxes up if I put them back down, I remember running over to one of these cars and trying to use the car to turn on my Bluetooth headset. And there was a bus, I think there was a bus or a van or something that was parked, some maintenance, it seemed like some sort of maintenance vehicle or some vehicle that was being maintenance. And I remember smashing my head against the door and then going, Rossman Repair Group, how can I help you? And I had successfully answered the call, and I had this big smile on my face because I hadn't dropped the boxes, but I answered the call. I was trying to answer it using my shoulder, but that wasn't working. And somebody just looks at me laughing like, what the fuck is this idiot doing? And I'm like, I know. And I keep walking. Obviously, that could not last forever. If not me going out of business, I would have most certainly gotten either several one-star reviews for not picking up my phone or a concussive head injury far sooner than when I slipped on my bike, likely if I was doing that every day with much worse consequences. That stuff didn't work, but at the time, I really genuinely thought that it was smarter that I continue to do that, and so I could save a couple of bucks. Why are you going to spend what are you spending $3,300 on rent for? Even if you're splitting it with several people, and even if you have a great business month and you get it down to $1,500 to $2,000, that's like that's between $50 to $100 a day. You out of your mind? What are you doing? Oh man, you're not going to grow that big. There's no point for this. That little voice in my head was just sitting there and making me feel like that was the wrong thing to do. And if I look back, not doing that, that would have been the dumbest shit in the world. And I have to kind of remind myself of that while I'm here. Just remind yourself, well, how many data recoveries do you have in the queue? Over 90. Why can't you do more of them? Because the only place to put another Pure Air bench is in the desk between Hannah and Kevin. And if you do that, they will have to learn how to limbo to get under the desk to leave. And that's an unacceptable way to run a business. It's common sense stuff like that. And I'm kind of excited at the opportunity to do this because a lot of people have also suggested move out of the city, split your business, have some of it here, some of it there. Have the easy stuff in the store, the hard stuff somewhere else. Or have one or two technicians there, but ship all the other stuff somewhere else. That's what everybody else does. That's what everybody else does. And that's why they suck. Same thing as when people said, listen, just make videos that show that you're competent. Just edit them and keep them to 30 to 90 seconds, no more than 2 minutes. Don't show people how to do what you do. That's all you need to do. No, I'm not doing it that way. That's how everybody else does it. And that's why their marketing sucks. That's why it has 50 views on YouTube. That's why people view it and go, I don't know if that's reputable. Let me call them. Let me ask them a bunch of questions to figure out if they're reputable. Let me really grill them even though I don't know what I'm talking about. Same way that I feel when I'm dealing with a contractor. Rather, you know what I have now? I have people who call who are, here's the truth. We could probably rip them off 6 ways to Sunday because so many of the people who call us, they're just genuinely trusting. You know why? Because one person decided to show them the truth. Tell them the truth. This is what it feels like to put 96 balls in an SMC. I'm going to curse. Fuck, this sucks. You see how that little ball just ran away and combined with another ball? God damn. Humanity. The person who's my customer is a human. I'm a human. Wouldn't it be nice to let them know that I'm a human just like them? And I have the same emotions that they probably would have if they had to do that exact same thing at 1 a.m. and the ball ran away. I explain everything. Here's what I do. Here's why I do it this way. Here are the other ways you could do it. Here's the other ways you could think. And here's why I think this way. I don't care if this teaches you how to build a carbon copy of my business. I'd rather you know why I do what I do and know that I have the capability to think than just be forced to assume that I'm competent and take my word for it that I know what I'm doing. No, let me demonstrate it. And I think this is going to be an excellent experiment, showing that when you scale a business, but you keep everything that made your business special in mind, that it makes a difference and that it's worthwhile. And that doing business that bullshit Adam Newman way, or that penny pinching way, or the bean counter way that most what's the word I'm looking for? It'll come to me later. The Bain Capital kind of way. That way doesn't succeed long term. Short term, yes. Private equity firm. That private equity firm way, which is, fastest, short returns, who cares about the future? That isn't sustainable. And that it doesn't work. I was having, I remember speaking with Kevin. I was speaking with Camille because I heard a conversation Kevin was having with a customer. He's the front desk clerk. And he was saying, okay, you see this green stuff here? The reason you don't have a green light is because there's corrosion on this chip. There's a chip called this SMC that talks to the charger, and this chip turns that chip on, and it has corrosion on it, so that's why it doesn't work. And I remember looking at Camille going, wow, well, when did he learn all this stuff? This is great. And he goes, yeah, we've been teaching it to all of them. Your website says when you come to Rossman Repair, you speak to an actual technician, not some customer service jackass that knows less than you. And we think that the stuff that it says on your website should continue to be true. I didn't ask my employee to read my website. He has an idea what my company culture is, but I didn't ask him to personally ensure that my front desk clerk could do that, but they do. And that's why I intensely value these people and care about them and want them to have, good quality lives inside of work and outside of work, and I care about them as human beings and what's going on in their lives, because when I'm not looking, this is what they're doing. When I'm not telling them what to do, this is what they're doing. Let's take the stuff that you wrote on your website in 2010 and make sure in 2019, after your business has moved 3 times and been through 20 or 30 different people and changed the services it's offered and changed everything else, that the core values there are still present. Let's make sure that those are present right now. They get that. They get that. And I would like to show that I still get that. That when we move, it's not going to be, oh yeah, this is the front pretty place at the store with 1 or 2 people that don't know jack shit. They're going to ship it to this place. And if you ever have a question, if you want to show up to see how something's doing, you don't get to talk to me. You get to call this number and speak to the people at the actual center where stuff gets done, some warehouse, and who the fuck knows us. No, that's not the way it's going to work. If this winds up failing, then it is what it is. It means that perhaps, just perhaps, scaling something like this doesn't work. Perhaps you do have to make compromises. Perhaps that private equity firm way of doing business is the way to do business. But I don't think it is. And I think part of what makes me nervous here is that I genuinely don't have an excuse for failure. If I rented that 30th Street's place and I wound up going bankrupt with construction, then absolutely. I would be able to say, well, I have an excuse. I thought that construction costs were going to be lower. I thought I would have been eligible for a loan, and I wasn't eligible for shit, and this is the money I have, this is what I need. Oh, I'm screwed. If I had rented the restaurant location, even though it was a few thousand less, when he went down to 9,000, I could say, well, it could have worked, but the reason it didn't is because that was out of the way. It was Avenue B and 4th Street. That's a bad location. It's mostly residential, more elderly residential. It's not exactly a hub of people that are going to be using upscale Apple products or paying for lots of data recovery. But if it fails here, then that just means I'm an idiot. Or let's say, it failed in that location on 30th Street and 8th Avenue that was 19 or 20K. It failed because it was expensive. If it fails here, where you're in Midtown Manhattan, you're half a block away from FIT, you're 4 blocks away from Madison Square Garden, 5 blocks away from Penn Station, 10 blocks away from the Times Square area, in the center of Manhattan, all sorts of foot traffic every single day, centrally located by every single train, and paying $66 a square foot, literally the cheapest rent I have found anywhere in Manhattan, then it's just you. You suck as a business owner. You suck as a manager. You suck at moving. And I think that's what kind of makes me nervous. It's not even just the prospect of failure. It's that the circumstances, even with all the financial fuck-ups and the architect aggravation and being late with getting a contractor into the space, even with all that kind of stuff, for the most part, this has actually gone very smoothly. That if it fails, the only reason that I could say that it failed is because I fucked it up. Because for the most part, there's not really much here that I could use as an excuse. It's not, oh yeah, I didn't get a great location. It's not, oh, I didn't have enough space. It's not, oh, I was paying way too much money in rent. It's not, oh, I didn't have good employees when I moved because they weren't available in the new location. That's another thing people didn't get when they said, why don't you just move your business to this other area? I have employees that on their spare time are reading my website, ensuring that the values in my website are enshrined on new employees that I hire to do customer service. And I'm supposed to, fire these people and start fresh? Do you know how hard it is to find people like that? Do you know how hard it is to find people who are that high quality, regardless of what you're paying them? I'm not going to just, no, I'm not going to tell all these people, oh yeah, with no notice, sorry, get out of here. It's a screwed up thing to do. But that's about it. I've been rambling into the camera for about 29 minutes now. I'm going to get out of here, go on with my day. There's quite a few more boards to fix. And I'm going to cherry pick more of the easy drives out of Steve's queue. I do not want anything that's solvable with DD Rescue being in Steve's queue. If there's anything that you should have learned from watching how I deal with the Paul queue, if the employees have anything easy in their queue, I'm not doing my job. All right, so nobody tell Paul that, because that's supposed to be our little secret, you know, viewer and content creator. So that's about it for today. I will see you in the next video. And thank you for watching, and as always, I hope you learned something.